Hello everyone, I'm Gemma Beall and welcome to Attaining the Second Cognition. In many of our videos, we've talked about knowing and feel, and in the Feeling in a World That Doesn't Feel video, I explain what they are in terms of understanding through definitions. In this video, I'm going to focus more on trying to relate what they are in terms of understanding them from your point of view. These two things are really an abstract and can't truly be described. They can only be felt, and I'm hoping that sharing my story and experience with them will give you a correlation in your own experience to relate them to. As a recap, knowing is something that is felt as truth from a sensory feel without emotions and is not a mental impression. And feel is a transmission of sensory feeling within the form from a higher sensory array and is not emotions. Please keep these in mind as we move forward with this presentation. I've had knowings and extrasensory feel my whole life, and as I review my life, the first instance of a knowing that I can remember and could be confirmed from a 3D event occurred when I was 6 years old. That summer, a stray cat had had a litter of kittens underneath my playhouse out in the backyard. I remember my dad lifting up the playhouse so we could collect the mama cat and her kittens and move them to safety in our utility room. There were 5 kittens. I remember the moment I saw them, I said, "That one's mine," and I pointed at one of the 2 calico kittens. My dad told me at that time we weren't keeping any of them because we didn't need another cat. I knew in my Soika she was my cat. We had a connection. Over the course of the next few weeks, I would play with the kittens, and I named my cat Queenie, and I kept telling my parents that she was mine, and they both kept telling me no she wasn't, and don't get attached, because we weren't keeping any of the kittens. This didn't stop the feeling and the knowing I had in my little body, or my Soika. By the time the kittens were 6 weeks old, my parents had managed to give all but Queenie and her calico sister away. One day I came home, and Queenie and her sister were gone. When I asked my mom where Queenie was, she told me that she had found them both a new home and that they were happy. I just looked at my mom and said, "Queenie will come home. She's mine." My mom told me I needed to understand that Queenie would not be coming back and she had a new home and was happy. I simply replied, "You'll see," and went to go play. I didn't feel any emotion, not anger or sadness, because I knew with every fiber of my being that Queenie would be coming back. A few weeks passed, and my brother and I were in our room playing. I was laying on my bed playing with my dolls, and I heard my dad's truck coming. He had really loud tailpipes. I jumped up and started jumping up and down on my bed saying, "Dad's bringing Queenie home." I was so excited that Queenie was finally coming home. My brother said, "You wish, you don't know that." I sat down on my bed and said, "I know." Even though I agreed with my brother verbally, it didn't change the feeling that I knew inside. A few minutes later, my dad walked in the room and handed me Queenie. I said to my dad, "I told you she was mine. Will you and Mom stop trying to give her away now?" And he said yes. Everything from the external world was saying that Queenie was not my cat and that my parents weren't going to let me keep her. But that's not what I knew with my whole entire being. The connection that Queenie and I shared was not one-sided. She loved me as much as I loved her, and I think we both had the intent to be together. It was decades later before I found out from my dad where they had taken Queenie and the circumstances that happened that caused the reason he brought her back home and let her stay. I think that everyone has their intuitive center, and where mine is might not necessarily be where yours is, but my intuition center is around my stomach area. When I get my intuitive feels, I feel a vibration in that area, almost like my body is humming, but it's just in that area. Sometimes it's a very subtle hum, and sometimes it's a very loud hum. Not every time I feel that vibration is accompanied by a knowing, but always when I get my knowing, it comes from that place, not my head. When I get the knowing from that place, it's like the vibration slowly spans out and fills my entire body from head to toe, but the epicenter is in that place. Sometimes I get chills on my physical form when this vibration occurs, but sometimes it doesn't. There were many years that I would experience the physical chills on my form that I mistook for an intuitive knowing feel, but not every time I get the physical chills on my form do I get the vibration in that place. This is how I have misperceived knowing in the past, because I was assuming that feeling chills on my body was a confirmation of knowing, but it was only in analyzing the phenomenon of feel and knowing together did I realize that chills on the body is not an indicator of knowing. It's just a physical sensation of shifting energies, and shifting energies and knowing and feel are not the same thing. Every time I've had the knowing, the vibration in that area has always been present and expansive, but the knowing doesn't always bring chills to my form. They are two distinct functions, and neither one relies on the other. Every single one of us is different, not only in our Soika, but in our form, and how my Soika translate knowing and feel to my form is not how yours is going to translate to you in the same manner. Only you, through analyzing your feel, knowing, physical body response, and emotions, are going to be able to figure out how your Soika and body relates messages to you if you don't already know. After working with many others regarding this topic, I feel 100% comfortable stating that emotions are never, and I do mean never, involved in this process, but they do confuse and distract from a true knowing. This one I know from a lot of experience. I see a lot of people that use the emotional factor as a confirmation of knowing, but until you analyze this within yourself and remove the emotional reaction or connection during the process, will you be able to know for sure. Don't make an assumption that how your intuition operates within your being, that the many processes are all one singular process. Don't make an assumption that how your intuition operates within your being, that the many processes are all one singular process. I've only realized what I'm telling you about how my form functions to show you how I had to analyze the many factors and separate them to gain a better understanding of them independently and how they operate together. Being an empath, I've had feel on me my whole life from an energetic standpoint because of my traits, but most people, especially non-empathic, don't have this issue. So learning to understand how you function in your intuitive capacity is all that is important. I know a lot of people are intuitively sensitive and or empathic, and they tend to pick up energies of others whether they want to or not. In learning to work with my traits, especially in reading energies, I began closing my eyes and ears and dealing with others and just feel the energies and allow my intuition and Soika to decipher the energies, not my mind, through my 5 primary senses. When I read comments in the threads, I always close my eyes and feel the energy emitted from the communication before I read them. I don't gauge my response by the words that are said, because most of the time the energies that are emitted through the response have nothing to do with what is actually being conveyed through words. This is why I point things out in the comments in order for the speaker of the words to look into their own mind where my observations are concerned to see if the observation has merit or not. Sometimes I know what I read from the energies is correct because I have the knowing. But sometimes I don't get a knowing, I just observe and feel. I never assume that my observations are correct or that I've read the energies correctly, even when I have the knowing, because I can only see in my mind. I can't see in yours. I can only feel the energies that are sent through the communication. This is why I share my observations, and if you follow the comment threads, you'll see that most of the time, no matter how nicely I put it, some people just will not consider the observation. With the story I shared and the information I shared about my feel and knowing process and my process of feeling energies, here are some questions to ask yourself in your mind. Where is my intuition center on my physical body? Have I misperceived knowing by misinterpreting feel on my physical body? What processes do I have in processing intuitive data? Do I have any intuitive processes that I've not tapped into yet? Do emotions confuse Soika knowing? Another thing I always do when listening to information or researching is asking this. Is this something that I need to research to advance my Soika, or is it a distraction? The answer will be a feel, not an emotion. State to your Soika, show me what processes you use to get my attention so I can analyze them. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen and contemplate this information. I want to thank all of our subscribers and those that are sharing our messages with others. If you have any questions or would like clarifications, please use the comment section to start a discussion that will benefit everyone. I'm Gemma Beall. Until next time, stay the course and don't give up on yourself.